mechanism of absorption of ions or mechanism of absorption of elements by the plants. The plants will absorb the elements, that is in the form of ions or minerals from the soil. So here the uptake or absorption will be taking place. The absorption may be either taking place by passive manner or by active process. Passive process is the one where the movement of the ions or the element will be taking place in according to the concentration gradient. That is from high concentration region to the low concentration region, or we can say that down the concentration gradient. In this process, as it is moving down the concentration from high to low concentration, so no energy is not utilized for this process. And active process is the one, here it is taking place against the concentration gradient. So that is from low concentration region to the high concentration region, and for this process they require energy, or energy is utilized for this process. And here the ions which may be taken by active process or the passive process, so sometimes it may be done by diffusion, so or by facilitated diffusion process. In diffusion process, where where from high concentration to low concentration the movement of the ions is taking place without utilizing the energy. In facilitated diffusion also the same process, but it is operated by the membrane proteins which are present in the membrane of the cells. So likewise here the concentration difference is important in the transportation of ions from one part of the or one side of the membrane to other side of the membrane. In this process the movement will be initially it is fast, that is to the apoplast. So that is free space. So initially it is the movement will be fast because of the apoplast or the free space. Later it will become, when from apoplast it have to enter into the symplast, that is to the inner space. So when it is entering into inner space, the movement will become slower. So likewise the variation can be seen in the movement of the ions either in the free space or in the inner space of the plants. So it may be carried out either by the active process or the passive process. So sometimes it may be operated by the ion channels or through the perforations which are being formed by the membrane proteins which are present in the plasma membrane of the plants. So this movement of the ions was studied in the transport of water in the plants in the first lesson. Then once these ions are taken, so let us take one example of active process where there is a plant called as Nitella. So here Nitella contains excess concentration of potassium ion inside that plant, but when compared to the outer surroundings, but despite of that one, it start accumulating the potassium ions inside the cells, that is from the movement of ions from low concentrated outer surface to the high concentrated inner surface. So this is a way how these potassium ions are moving into the Nitella plant against the concentration gradient. So this is one of the example for active transport. And in this process of transportation, the concentration of the critical concentration of the ions will be maintained, which is required for the normal growth and development of the plants. In the transportation of ions, there are different types of carriers which are required for the movement of these ions from one side of the plasma membrane to the other side of the plasma membrane. Here likewise we can see one is uniporters and second one is co-transporters. Uniporters means the protein carriers which are present in the plasma membrane will carry one type of ion in only one direction, that is a movement of one ion in one direction, either from outside to inside or from inside to outside. So, this type of protein carriers are called as uniporters, and this mechanism is called as uniport mechanism. And in co-transporters, here two ions will move at a time. So, here based on the direction of movement, there are two types of co-transporters are there, those are called as symporters and antiporters. Symporters are the one in which if this is a plasma membrane, two ions will be moving simultaneously in the same direction, either from inside to outside or from outside to inside. So, here in antiporters, two ions will be moving simultaneously, but one will be moving in outside to inside, the other will be moving from inside to outside. Likewise, they are moving in the opposite direction, so we call it as a antiporters. Likewise, here different types of carriers are there, and here these are concerned with the way how they are transporting the elements or ions from one side to the other side. In this process, they may help in the primary active transport and the secondary active transport. So, primary active transport requires energy, whereas secondary active transport where the electrochemical gradient is established, that electrochemical gradient will produce some EMF, electromotive force, which is responsible for the movement of the ions in the opposite direction or outward direction. So, this is a way how this transport of ions will be, or absorption of ions will be taking place in the plants.